Reproduction is essential for the continuation of a species. Imagine what would have happened if organisms had not reproduced. You will realize that reproduction is very important as it ensures the continuation of similar kinds of individuals, generation after generation. In this chapter, we shall learn how reproduction takes place in animals. Let's start with modes of reproduction. Have you seen the young ones of different animals? We know that young one of a human is called baby. That of a cat is called kitten. Dog's baby is called a puppy. A young butterfly is caterpillar. Hen's young one is called a chick, while that of a cow is calf. And guys, you tell me, young ones of a frog is called what? Comment below and let me know. Now, can you tell how chicks and caterpillars are born? How are kittens and puppies born? Do you think that these young ones looked the same before they were born as they do now? Let us find out. Just as in plants, there are two modes by which animals reproduce. These are sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. Let's first get to know sexual reproduction. Animals that reproduce sexually have different reproductive parts or organs for males and females, just like plants. Like plants, the reproductive parts in animals also produce gametes that fuse to form a zygote. It is the zygote which develops into a new individual. This type of reproduction, beginning from the fusion of male and female gametes, is called sexual reproduction. Let us find out the reproductive parts in humans and study the process of reproduction in them. The male reproductive organs include a pair of testes, two sperm ducts, and a penis. The testes produce the male gametes called sperms. Millions of sperms are produced by the testes. Does a sperm appear to be a single cell? Indeed, each sperm is a single cell with all the usual cell components. Those sperms are very small in size, each has a head, a middle piece, and a tail. Head contains the DNA that will combine with the egg's DNA to create a new individual. The midpiece of the sperm contains mitochondria that provide the energy the tail needs to move. Now, what do you think? What purpose does the tail in a sperm serve? Well, the tail of a sperm cell's primary purpose is to propel the sperm towards an egg so that it can fertilize it. The tail moves back and forth in a whip like motion to move the sperm. Only male gametes have tails. Female gametes are immobile. Now, let's get to know the female reproductive organs. These are a pair of ovaries, oviducts, and the uterus. The ovary produces female gametes called ova or eggs. In human beings, a single matured egg is released into the oviduct by one of the ovaries every month. Uterus is the part where development of the baby takes place. Like the sperm, an egg is also a single cell. The size of eggs in animals varies. The egg may be very small as in humans, much larger as in hens. The largest egg is that of you tell me that in the comments below. Next is fertilization. The first step in the process of reproduction is the fusion of a sperm and an ovum. When sperms come in contact with an egg, one of the sperms may fuse with the egg. Such fusion of the egg and the sperm is called fertilization. During fertilization, the nuclei of the sperm and the egg fuse to form a single nucleus. This results in the formation of a fertilized egg or zygote. Did you know that the zygote is the beginning of a new individual? The process of fertilization is the meeting of an egg cell from the mother and a sperm cell from the father. So, the new individual inherits some characteristics from the mother and some from the father. Look at your brother or sister. See if you can recognize some characters in them similar to those of your mother or your father. Moving ahead. Fertilization, which takes place inside the female body, is called internal fertilization. Internal fertilization occurs in many animals, including humans, cows, dogs, and hens. However, in some women, oviducts are blocked. These women are unable to bear babies because sperms cannot reach the egg for fertilization. In such cases, doctors collect freshly released egg and sperms and keep them together for a few hours for IVF or in vitro fertilization, that is, fertilization outside the body. In case fertilization occurs, the zygote is allowed to develop for about a week and then it is placed in the mother's uterus. Complete development takes place in the uterus and the baby is born like any other baby. Babies born through this technique are called test tube babies. This term is actually misleading because babies cannot grow in test tubes. You will be surprised to know that in many animals, fertilization takes place outside the body of the female. In these animals, fertilization takes place in water. Let us find out how does this happen. During spring or rainy season, frogs and toads move to ponds and slow flowing streams. When the male and female come together in water, the female lays hundreds of eggs. Unlike hen's egg, frog's egg is not covered by a shell and is comparatively very delicate. A layer of jelly holds the eggs together and provides protection to the eggs. As the eggs are laid, the male deposits sperms over them. Each sperm swims randomly in water with the help of its long tail. The sperms come in contact with the eggs. This results in fertilization. This type of fertilization, in which the fusion of a male and a female gamete takes place outside the body of the female, is called external fertilization. It is very common in aquatic animals such as fish, starfish, etc. Now, a good question is, why do fish and frogs lay eggs in hundreds, whereas a hen lays only one egg at a time? Though these animals lay hundreds of eggs and release millions of sperms, excuse me, though these animals lay hundreds of eggs and release millions of sperms, all the eggs do not get fertilized and develop into new individuals. This is because the eggs and sperms get exposed to water movement, wind, and rainfall. Also, there are other animals in the pond which may feed on eggs. Thus, production of large number of eggs and sperms is necessary to ensure that fertilization of at least a few of them occurs. Interesting, right? Now, have you ever wondered how could a single cell become such a big individual? Let's get to know that with our next topic. Development of embryo. Fertilization results in the formation of zygote, which begins to develop into an embryo. The zygote divides repeatedly to give rise to a ball of cells, as shown here. The cells then begin to form groups that develop into different tissues and organs of the body. This developing structure is termed an embryo. The embryo gets embedded in the wall of the uterus for further development, as shown here. The embryo continues to develop in the uterus. It gradually develops body parts such as hands, legs, head, eyes, ears, etc. The stage of the embryo in which all the body parts can be identified is called a fetus. When the development of the fetus is complete, the mother gives birth to the baby. Internal fertilization takes place in hens also. But do hens give birth to babies like human beings and cows? You know that they do not, right? Then, how are chicks born? Let us find out. Soon after fertilization, the zygote divides repeatedly and travels down the oviduct. As it travels down, many protective layers are formed around it. The hard shell that you see in a hen's egg is one such protective layer. After the hard shell is formed around the developing embryo, the hen finally lays the egg. The embryo takes about 3 weeks to develop into a chick. You must have seen the hen sitting on the eggs to provide sufficient warmth. Did you know that development of the chick takes place inside the eggshell during this period? After the chick is completely developed, it bursts open the eggshell. In animals which undergo external fertilization, development of the embryo takes place outside the female body. The embryos continue to grow within their egg coverings. After the embryos develop, the eggs hatch. You must have seen numerous tadpoles swimming in ponds and streams. Now, let's learn about viviparous and oviparous animals. The animals which give birth to young ones are called viviparous animals. For example, dolphin, whales, humans, lion, tiger, elephant, dogs, etc. Those animals which lay eggs are called oviparous animals. For example, frogs, snakes, lizards, duck, fish, butterflies, etc. Now tell me something. Is shark viviparous or oviparous? Comment your answers below. Now let's see the transformation of young ones of animals to adults. The new individuals which are born or hatched from the eggs continue to grow till they become adults. In some animals, the young ones may look very different from the adults. The life cycle of frog is shown here. Observe the different stages of frog, starting from the egg to the adult stage. We find that there are three distinct stages, that is, egg, larva or the tadpole, and adult. Don't the tadpoles look so different from the adults? Can you imagine that these tadpoles would someday become frogs? The tadpoles transform into adults capable of jumping and swimming. The transformation of the larva into an adult through drastic changes is called metamorphosis. What about the changes that we observe in our body as we grow? Do you think we too undergo metamorphosis? In human beings, body parts similar to those present in the adults are present from the time of birth. Great learning, isn't it? So far, we have learnt about reproduction in some familiar animals. But what about very small animals like Hydra and microscopic organisms like Amoeba? Do you know how do they reproduce? Let us find out. Asexual reproduction. In each hydra, there may be one or more bulges. These bulges are the developing new individuals and they are called buds. It is similar to the presence of buds in yeast. In Hydra too, the new individuals develop as outgrowths from a single parent. This type of reproduction, in which only a single parent is involved, is called asexual reproduction. Since new individuals develop from the buds in Hydra, this type of asexual reproduction is called budding. Another method of asexual reproduction is observed in the microscopic organism Amoeba. Let us see how this happens. Amoeba is a single celled organism, as you can see here. It begins the process of reproduction by the division of its nucleus into two nuclei, as shown here. This is followed by the division of its body into two, each part receiving a nucleus. Finally, two amoebae are produced from one parent amoeba, as you can see here. This type of asexual reproduction, in which an animal reproduces by dividing into two individuals, is called binary fission. Interesting, right? Let's make it more interesting with a story. You heard me right? Let's get to know a story. Story of Dolly the clone. Cloning is the production of an exact copy of the cell, any other living part, or a complete organism. So, cloning is the production of an exact copy of a cell, any other living part, or a complete organism. Cloning of an animal was successfully performed for the first time by Ian Wilmot and his colleagues at Roslin Institute in Edinburgh, Scotland. They successfully cloned a sheep named Dolly. Dolly was born on 5th July 1996 and was the first mammal to be cloned. During the process of cloning, Dolly, a, a cell was collected from the mammary gland of a female fin dorsate sheep. Simultaneously, an egg was obtained from a Scottish blackface ewe. The nucleus was removed from the egg. Then, the nucleus of the mammary gland cell from the fin dorsate sheep was inserted into the egg of the Scottish blackface ewe, whose nucleus had been removed. The egg thus produced was implanted into the Scottish blackface ewe. Development of this egg followed normally, and finally, Dolly was born. Though Dolly was given birth by the Scottish blackface ewe, it was found to be absolutely identical to the fin dorsate sheep from which the nucleus was taken. Since the nucleus from the egg of the Scottish blackface ewe was removed, Dolly did not show any character of the Scottish blackface ewe. Dolly was a healthy clone of the fin dorsate sheep and produced several offsprings of her own through normal sexual means. Unfortunately, Dolly died on 14th February 2003 due to a certain lung disease. Since Dolly, several attempts have been made to produce cloned mammals. However, many die before birth or die soon after birth. The cloned animals are many a times found to be born with severe abnormalities. Hope you understood the chapter well. Well, in that case, like, share, subscribe, and please, please, please leave me a comment. It makes me very happy. So, till we meet next, be kind, eat healthy, stay healthy, and keep learning. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.